It's the Tim Anderson Podcast. I'm Tim. That's my buddy Ryan over there. He's been up late with the little guy. Rhino, good to see you.
Good to be here.
And the guy who knows all about staying up late with the little guys, defensive coordinator extraordinaire, Zach Nienaber. Welcome, Zach.
Hey, Tim. Good to be here.
Good to have you guys here once again. Weeks 6 now in the books. Can't believe we're already almost a third of the way through this nonsense, or we are a third of the way through officially through this crazy regular season. I'm lost. I have no idea where we're going here. The league seems completely out of joint, especially after this weekend. It didn't help at all. Thinking about the league, early thoughts as we head into our conversation tonight. Zach, why don't we start with you?
I think that defenses have caught up to offenses.
That's interesting.
There always seems to be that swing back and forth, right? All of a sudden offenses take off and then defenses start to catch up and then offense has to innovate again. And I think we're in a swing back towards defenses now, right? Because a couple years ago when we got Rams and Chiefs and it was 50-50 or whatever that game was. And don't get me wrong, there were defensive scores in that game too. But it was just an absolute shootout, and that's not the case anymore, right? I mean, we saw Chiefs-Bills, and that was 20-17. I just think the defenses have caught up and have adjusted, and now it's time for the offenses to make their swing back again.
Hey, Ryan, Bill Simmons said something to this tone earlier this week, or last night or this morning when I listened to him, saying that the defenses have basically just decided that no more deep passes will be allowed. That if you're going to score, it's going to require you to go the length of the field with no penalties. Hopefully you don't fumble the ball because they realize that the rules are so kind of stacked towards the offense. So basically what they're basically daring is go, run 10 plays and don't get a holding call and you can score. Is that kind of what's happening? Do you think? Do you agree with this thought?
It's certainly you've certainly seen that over the last 2 weeks, especially, I think, in the league, right? It feels that way. I think watching that Kansas City Buffalo game yesterday, that would be my thought as well. I know Tony Romo mentioned it too, that he thought it was going to be low scoring. I think he actually predicted the final score at the first quarter of the game, saying that it was going to be a defensive game. They're going to make you drive the length of the field. But yeah, I think that's absolutely the case, and I think that kind of cheapens the investment for teams like Miami, who invested in a ton of speed trying to stretch the field. As defenses adjust, suddenly that scheme seems a little less strong. And we're kind of seeing the adjustment and we saw the adjustment in Minnesota this week against that system, where they were forcing Miami to make smaller passes. They had a couple of big plays, but it was a lot of you're going to have to keep the defense in front of you and just trust that they're going to make mistakes. And that's how they've been winning games. So, is it sustainable? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think that's absolutely fair to say is that we're seeing defenses keep things in front of them and don't allow big plays and just trust that the offenses are going to make mistakes.
But Zach, there's nothing new under the sun here. Cover 2 is cover 2. It's not like Leslie Frazier has just decided I'm going to coach a different way. So is it an investment in defensive backs? Is it just deciding that they're going to do X, Y, and Z differently within the cover 2? You being a defensive guy, like how is that happening? How do you do that? How do you change the defense?
I think that pass rushing has become more of a skill, more of an art. And then defensive coordinators have found ways to get those matchups for those guys that they like. So you're seeing more pressure on quarterbacks, which is then leading to less deeper balls, like you guys talked about, and stuff coming out quicker. One thing I'd like to see changed is less automatic first downs.
Yes.
On penalties. I'm okay with the long, right? I know there are people who don't like pass interference being a spot fall. I'm okay with that. Because I think if you don't have that, you're going to see a lot more pass interference calls instead of longer completions.
Right.
But not every penalty on the defense needs to be an automatic first down. Yeah, right? If the yardage gets you there, then great. And if it doesn't get you there, it's probably going to put you pretty close then, and you're going to get to repeat the down. But I don't know, hands to the face, automatic first down. Defensive
Illegal
hold,
contact.
automatic first down. Just so many of those, and like they oftentimes feel like bailout calls, or I don't know. Like it's 3rd and 20. Hands to the face shouldn't give the other team a first down.
I agree.
I'm also in the camp of getting rid of the spot foul. Like I want the college and the high school rule of 15 yards. I've decided I don't want the spot foul for pass interference anymore.
See, I
need that to go away. I need that to go away.
I disagree with that just because I think that it would become such a liability to have. Say you are throwing the deep ball, you're taking the chance, you get it in one-on-one coverage. If the defender knows I can just tackle him and give up 15 yards and an automatic first down instead of giving up a touchdown,
it's part of the strategy.
Like that to me is not fair, because then you're getting another chance on the 1 yard line. But if it's in the end zone and you're committing that foul, or if it's on the 3-4 yard line and you're committing that foul, you should have to pay for that.
But taking a penalty shouldn't be part of strategy.
Right.
That's fair comeback.
It always will be, right? I mean, it's you're going to take it, but it's getting put on within the 5, right? It's wherever you're committing that foul, whether it's in the end zone or in 5 on in, it's going to be there.
Right, but I mean, in the same ways, right, where offenses were figuring out, well, if we take a delay a game and then we take a false start and the clock is still running, right? Vrabel did that to Belichick the one game, and there shouldn't be an advantage to the team that gets penalized.
Right, I agree.
It's fair comeback. I mean, that's a fair way. That's one I didn't really think about. I just don't love. I guess I've never really loved like slight little contact, slight little push on the 40-yard pass play, and all of a sudden we've got a 45-yard penalty. Just doesn't feel like it's fair to me. I don't know, but
I do think that this brings up a conversation that at some point we're going to have, whether Tim wants to have it or not, which is there needs to be more accountability and clarity in officiating. I don't know what that looks like. I don't have a solution, but it's clear, and it's becoming clearer, that we have a problem with the understanding of the rules and the interpretation of the rules in real time on the field, especially with things like roughing the passer and pass interference.
I don't want to disagree with you on that. Look, I'm not saying the referees are great, right? My issue is always I refuse to blame them for losses, and I'm going to stand by that. Like, I won't move off of that no matter what, because I just think we start going down that rabbit hole, and it's Thunderdome out here, and I can't have it. So,
well, and I understand your argument. My point is, and frequently has been, that I think that I want to see teams that deserve opportunities get more opportunities to win a game, and I just think that for so many teams this season in particular, and in the last couple of years as we've had this conversation in an increasing frequency, I think that it's become an issue where teams are losing opportunities because of bad calls, where they should have had a chance to win the game, whether they would have won it or not. They earned the opportunity, and that opportunity got taken by a bad penalty. And I want to see that go away.
I stand by this, Zach. I don't know if you can agree. I think the referees are in an impossible position here. I think the league is over-legislated because they've panicked about, an injury to an Aaron Rodgers, for example, or they've panicked about when Jared Allen went low on Tom Brady, or they panicked about X, Y, and Z rule, and so they decided, we got to start putting this in to legislate for that and legislate for that. And now you're over-legislated. And now I just think like the referees are like, well, I don't know. Everything feels like a foul now, so just call it. Just when in doubt, call it. And, 8 out of 10 times we're going to be right. And maybe we can review something else. I don't know. But, Zach, that's my vibe.
I just want to point out real quick, it was Bernard Pollard that tore Tom Brady's ACL. I
thought it was Allen on the Chiefs.
No, it was Bernard Pollard in 2008 who was on a safety blitz.
Point of order. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate the point of order. Thank you. All right, so Zach, my point is still there, don't you think? Are we over-legislated, though? Is that half the problem?
I think the problem is that we have 22 guys on the field that are amazing athletes moving at such great speed, and 6 referees cannot see everything that slow-motion, high-definition cameras can. And that's why we're complaining, right? Is because we get 6 slow-mos of every single play now.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we complain about it, right? Oh, that guy clearly held. There's definitely a hands in the face on that one. Well, yeah, we had the benefit of watching it 6 times. And sometimes we see it in slow motion too.
Yeah.
But we're also the guys sitting above everything watching, right? We've got,
it's true.
At the snap of the ball, 17 of the guys on our screen.
That's fair.
I also think that at some point, and maybe this isn't a popular conversation, but at some point we need to talk about how the rules of the game shouldn't always exist to protect the players. They should protect the game. And I think that sometimes we're calling penalties to protect players from themselves when they understand the risks of the game. These are adult men playing football. They're some of the greatest athletes in the world, and they don't need to be protected.
Zach says put him out there. Not Zach, but Ryan says put him out with a concussion. Tua should be playing.
They know what game they're playing. We have protocols to keep guys safe outside of the rules of the game. If you're going to tackle somebody, it's going to hurt. If you're going to get tackled, it's going to hurt. You've got to understand that this is the game you're playing, and the expectation is that you play it according to the rules, and the rules aren't changed because you could get hurt.
I can't disagree with all that. I really can't. I think the referees are just in an impossible position. It's a thankless job. And I think we can say that across all levels of sport, which is why we have shortages across the state and across the country for high school events and things of that nature. So it's just a thankless job. It's really difficult to do. So I'm standing with the officials. But can it get better? Yeah. 100% it can. It always can. It always can. But we don't have robots coming anytime soon. So we got to figure out a way to make this work.
Well, it's not baseball. There's no balls and strikes in football. It's a lot of judgment calls.
100%. Let me take you around the league. Since we're 6 weeks in, let's give you a quick recap of the standings. And then I want to get into a question for both of you guys about creating a little bit of a hierarchy. Because I got to be honest, through 6 weeks, there are very few teams that I think I trust to win the Super Bowl. But I know that that's not true, right? Because it's week 6, and if we would have said this spot last year, teams like Arizona would have been in the conversation to go to the Super Bowl, and we know that they were miles away. So I understand that this can change, but I just don't have a lot of confidence in teams right now, and I'm wondering if you guys can help me fill in. So here's the standings as we go through week 6. Starting in the AFC East, the Bills are 5-1, the Jets are 4-2, Dolphins, Patriots 3-3 apiece. The AFC West, the Chiefs 4-2, the Chargers are 3-2, Broncos are 2-3, and they're playing right now. Raiders were on bye, they're 1-4.
Excuse me.
The wackiest division in football, the AFC North. The Ravens and the Bengals are 3-3. The Browns and the Steelers are 2-4. AFC South, the Titans are 3-2. The Colts all of a sudden now are 3-2-1. The Jags are 2-4, and the Texans are 1-3-1. On the NFC side, Eagles are 6-0, Giants 5-1, Cowboys 4-2, the Washington Cobra Commanders are 2-4. Although Carson Wentz is now out 4 to 6 weeks. What was your favorite Carson Wentz moment?
I feel like you're saying that every year.
Yeah. Carson Wentz is out, you say. No way. No way. I cross that off on your bingo card. In the NFC West, the Niners are 3-3. By the way, the Niners were in Ryan's Power 5 last week. The Rams are 3-3. Seahawks are 3-3. The Cardinals are 2-4. The Vikings in the NFC North are 5-1. The Pack are 3-3. The Bears are 2-4. The Lions are 1-4. And in the NFC South, Bucks and Falcons tied for first at 3-3, and the Saints at 2-4, and the Panthers 1-5. Guys, that's a mess. There's like 9 teams at 3-3. That's a third of the league is at 500 right now.
But that's what the league wants.
That's true. Do they want 3? I'm not saying it's all mediocre. I'm just saying you can't predict it.
Yeah, and that's what the league wants. The league wants parity. They want every team to feel like they could win on a Sunday. They want every team to feel like they've got a shot at some stuff. I'll say this. We'll start here. There's 3 teams at 5-1.
Yep.
And there was a meme on Twitter today, who's the best 5-1 team? The Giants, the Vikings, or the Bills? And I'm like, how is that even?
It's not even a question.
It's not a conversation.
Right. I'm like, what are we doing? Right?
The Bills
no
would be
disrespect to the other 2 teams because I'm guessing they're going to appear in the power rankings in some form today for some of us.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, come on. The Bills are clearly the class of that.
Yeah. The Bills would be a 6-0 team if not for a 120-degree day in Miami.
I would agree.
Yeah, and Miami. Let's talk. We can talk about Miami for a second too, because I'm sure you guys saw some of it. They played the Vikings.
Yep.
Like, I was impressed with Miami, even with their third quarterback out there.
And he wasn't out there forever because Teddy had a hell of a game statistically. Like Teddy threw for 300 yards.
Teddy looked like a third quarterback at times too, but
it's true. He threw a couple of bad picks.
Their defense was good, right?
Yeah.
They had like 7 3-and-outs.
That front seven's fast.
Actually, I think I heard today they had 10 3-and-outs in the game.
And Tua's going to start again next week. He cleared concussion protocol like on Saturday, I think I read. And so like he will play in their next game. So like maybe they think they're going to get back on track there with Coach Spicoli. Although I'm still convinced Coach Spicoli's not a good coach. Like I don't think so yet.
Will the ping pong table be back?
The ping pong table is the interesting story, right? That there seems to be a lot of confusion around this ping pong table. I think Coach Spicoli finds it to be a distraction, apparently. Or first he liked it, you said, right? Because you told me this story. You said he liked it, then he didn't like it. Now it's gone, but it sounds like it's coming back.
Yeah, there was an article in, I forget what paper it was. It wasn't the Miami Herald. It was the other one. It was
the Sun-Times?
Maybe Palm Beach something. Anyway.
The Bugle. The
it was a whole article about how great this ping pong table was. How it's been unifying for the guys. It's gotten people through, a tough 2 days. Tua was showing his leadership on the table. Like, I mean, it was just like if you would read it, you would think it was satire, right? It had to have been parody. And then, they lose a couple games with the backup quarterback. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, no, man, we got to get rid of this table and take things seriously. And, the table was gone. And he acted like, the coach acted like, oh, what great leadership. They took it upon themselves to get rid of it. And then the next day they asked Tyreek Hill about it. And he's like, nah, man, we ordered a new custom one. So it almost felt like Mike Dan is so worried about being accepted, like wanting to be one of the guys, like telling them how great they were. And it just made me laugh. Because it's all so asinine, right? Like, what's the problem here? What's the problem? You know what I mean? Like,
Aqib Talib spoke to this in an interview or a podcast I'd read this week or heard that he tried to. Somebody asked him because he played for the Patriots that one year, and he said, "What's the difference between Belichick and everybody else?" He said, "Belichick doesn't have stupid rules like every other new coach does. Like Belichick doesn't care what you wear to the meetings." Doesn't care what you look like, what music you listen to, doesn't care what your hair looks like, just as long as you show up and you're prepared. Like everything they do is about football and not about everything else. And he says if you go to these other coaches, it's all about like, what's our atmosphere like? And everybody's got to dress a certain way and wear a certain thing and do a certain thing. He's like, and all that stuff feels like just rules for the sake of rules. And you just wonder about that when you think of guys like new coaches, right? When you think of new coaches and they come in and they want to create a culture and they want to do this thing. And what you end up getting is this kind of weird vibe where either there's no rules or there's way too many rules. And I'm trying to figure out where McDaniel falls.
Did you, just talking about Belichick, did you see they had a rookie who recovered a fumble?
I did see this.
And the guy comes running off the field with the football to hand it to Belichick, and I mean, it is such a college thing, right? Like,
yep.
All these college teams, right? The kid comes running over and gives the football to the head coach or the D coordinator or whatever, and Belichick just kind of looks at it like, what the fuck you want me to do with this?
He's like, homeboy, I've been around a long time. I got a million of these. They give me these balls for free, I can get these anytime I want.
Or like an equipment manager kind of like stepped in and grabbed the ball. It was pretty funny though, because it does speak to like what is the atmosphere, what is the climate on your team,
Yeah,
and what's important.
And I just thought it was very interesting because I think Belichick gets this image of being this hard-nosed, tough guy, and he probably is. But the fact is he focuses only on football and nothing else, which makes sense, I guess, when you figure how does he stay relevant and how does he coach. He's just all about football and all about winning, and I give him credit. It feels like this season being what it is, it's starting to play into the Patriots' hands a little bit. Like maybe the Bailey Zappi thing is brilliant, and maybe the fact you can't pass over the top for 50 yards plays perfect for the Patriots.
Do the Patriots have a quarterback controversy?
We'll get into that with listener mailbag because that tackles that very question. Let me ask you this though, Ryan. I'll start with you on this. Because you heard me list all the teams and all their standings. Let's start. Can you pour me through? Right now, I've got the Bills and the Eagles right as like a clear hierarchy to go to the Super Bowl. But obviously, there's more teams than that. And I'm not getting to my Power Five, so this is in no order.
Yeah.
How many teams can you think of or name that you have confidence in could be a Super Bowl playing team? Not saying winning it, but like they can get there. Like, in your mind, how many teams? And maybe name some of them off.
I think that we count. I got 1, 2, obviously, Bills and Eagles. I think Kansas City is a team that can get there. They played the Bills really tough. It was a tough game. I think the Bills are better than Kansas City. But I really do think that Kansas City's got a really good leadership, and they just win games, man. Hard to deny. I think that Baltimore's got a lot to work out, but they're the kind of team that can get there. I don't know. Dallas, if Dallas can figure out what's going on with the quarterback situation and if they can get the ball out, I think that maybe they could be there. I'm not as confident on Dallas. I got to tell you, there's something about the New York Giants this year where I don't know if they're I want to mention them because I don't know if they're a Super Bowl contending team, but Brian Daboll is a really good coach.
Yes.
And I don't think that team's super talented. I don't think that defense is really talented. But I think that when you get a really good coach in the building, you get this kind of response. I think this was the kind of response I expected from the Lions with Dan Campbell. And it maybe shows that Dan Campbell isn't as good a coach as he talks.
Ding, 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 ding.
But Brian Daboll is who I thought Dan Campbell could be.
So you have 5?
The results bear that out. I think those are my 5 right now. And I would leave the Giants out of that conversation.
Yeah, this is, different from the power rankings. These are teams do you trust?
Yeah, those I think it's Philadelphia, Dallas, Buffalo, and Kansas City are
Baltimore
and Baltimore maybe if they can figure it out.
Okay. You want to add anybody to that, Zach?
Well, I want to throw out first of all, when you mentioned the Giants, Tim gave the same dirty look that my son did when he woke up the next morning and saw I had shaved my head. That look of what the hell?
No, here's the thing.
Tell you
Go ahead,
with
Ryan.
This podcast, I'm feeling like I got to shave my head.
You almost got to, yeah. You got a little solidarity from you is what we could use.
My wife's telling me no.
You tell Lauren she's got to get on this podcast and stop this Tom Brady slander online before she can start barking out orders around here. A lot of slander coming from your wife online on Tom Brady. So, very aggressive stuff. But I still love Lauren. Let me say this. I agree with those picks. The Giants I like. I think Daboll's great. I think Daboll's done a great job. I think he's coach of the year right now through 6 weeks. I don't trust them to get to the Super Bowl. Yeah. I don't think there's any way possible, right? The Vikings, we don't trust the Vikings, do we? At 5-1, I mean, they're 5-1, but
we should institute a podcast rule that they could be 17-0, and we don't trust. We can like them,
but we can't trust them.
We don't trust the Minnesota Vikings.
Zach, anybody that you trust beyond what we've talked about, or do you not trust any of the ones Ryan mentioned? My list was Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City, Philadelphia. I think you need to talk about the Chargers. I know that we're not huge on their coaching situation. But they've got a lot of good pieces, and they could be a threat here down the stretch. And we'll see what happens tonight. They just, they've got their punter kicking field goals right now.
That's tough.
And, well, he made it, but it looked like he might have gotten hurt on it as well. So, the other guy got hurt on an extra point, and now it looks like J.K. Scott may have pulled something on that one, too. So that could be interesting.
Are you troubled with the Chargers by the fact that Keenan Allen, that Brian Robinson returned from gunshot wounds before Keenan Allen could return from a hamstring injury? Are you concerned about that a little bit?
Yes.
Does that not shake you up a little bit? It shakes me up. It shakes my confidence a little bit, I must say. I don't know.
I do think if we're gonna talk tiers, I think that in that kind of next tier down of teams that we might want to wait and trust. This is kind of where I would put Baltimore and New York as far as the Giants. I would also put like Miami and Cincinnati there.
But would you trust? How about San Francisco? Because in the NFC, we determined that the NFC is weaker, right? You don't think San Francisco could get hot and go on a run?
Their defense is really, really good. I just don't know that they have enough on offense to get there.
Do you trust?
They may not even make the playoffs.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. You don't trust the Rams, right? Because the Rams stink. Do you trust? Could the Rams get back? Could the Rams get back? Do you trust the Rams? Do you trust Tampa Bay?
No. Here's my question. I asked this in the group chat. Could Seattle win the West?
No.
Somebody's got to win it.
The way that Geno's playing, the rest of that division's kind of the wheels are falling off a bit.
No, I would. The Rams and San Francisco are better than Seattle.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just thought I'd ask the question.
The Rams look bad, though. Down. God, the Rams look bad.
I understand that, but I just think that I don't know. I would take money on those other two teams before I take them on Seattle.
I'm not asking to bet money on it. It's just they look. There are times they look like the most explosive team in that division.
I'm just saying, like, if you gave me $100 and said pick a team to win the West,
you're not putting the 100 anywhere on Seattle. You're not hedging.
I'd put 100 on Arizona not to win it.
Well, Hollywood Brown looks like he's hurt too.
Yeah, he looks like he is hurt. That's why they traded for Robbie Anderson, who last we saw him, he was being thrown off Antonio Brown style from the Panthers sideline by Steve Wilkes. So clearly that situation's looking good. That worked out really well for Robbie Anderson.
He was brought in by the previous coach because he coached him in college.
Right.
I don't know. Robbie Anderson sucked for
he's not good.
10 years.
He sucks. He's not a good player.
When's the last time he was even relevant?
So, as far as trust, I have a little bit of trust in Tampa still because of Tom. And because I feel like there's a chance they could get a little healthier. They could kind of circle the wagons. And they're going to win in a weak-ass division. I still think they're going to win that division at the end. Get in the playoffs, maybe host a playoff game. And then, all bets are off. Because Tom in a big spot, it's hard to bet against him. So, I still feel like you got to trust Tampa a little bit, don't you? Based on just what you know about their schedule. I'm very aware of that.
What about Green Bay?
Do you trust? I don't not trust Green Bay. Although these last 2 weeks haven't been good, but maybe the Jets and Giants are good.
Here's the deal: they are 3-3.
Yep.
And their losses have been ugly. But those three teams are 14-4.
It's true.
They've lost to legit teams so far.
So do you trust Green Bay?
If you're losing to legit teams, what does that say when you get to playoff time? I don't know that I would trust them to get to the Super Bowl at this point.
Right? We knew there was going to be growing pains with stuff early.
Yes.
Right? We knew their offense was going to struggle. Yep. They're still getting healthy on the O-line. They're still trying to figure out what those 5 guys need to be. Right? And that was a huge problem this week. Don't get me wrong, right? They were bad. And we went into the season thinking that defense would be really good.
And they largely haven't been.
No, they've really struggled against the run, it feels like. So I would say this. I think they've got as much chance as Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I don't think at this point they're going to win the division. But
well, it's definitely Minnesota's to lose now, right?
Yeah.
Which also, I guess we're getting onto another topic then, but Ryan, what's your, how have your expectations changed? Where are you, I mean, I feel like coming into this year, right, everyone kind of felt like it was a whatever year, but now it feels like...
I think I still think it's a whatever year for me. Whatever kind of happens, I'm happy with. I don't really have a whole lot of expectations, and part of that is how they've won these games, right? It's the turnover margin feels unsustainable. The defense late in games winning you that game is nice. It's a welcome change from last year, especially in the last 2 minutes of a game, but it certainly doesn't feel sustainable. The offense has to play better. They're sputtering way too often. They're not starting games well. It's not convincing yet to me. I think I need to see that first week was really convincing. They looked really good against Green Bay. And then, I mean, even in the third quarter of that game, they kind of left the door open a little bit. They shut it in the fourth quarter, but man, it just wasn't there.
Right.
You kind of get lucky with some injury stuff, but at the same time, you're 5-1 and you're winning those games. So.
But don't you agree that now? I mean, if they don't win the division, you're going to be disappointed, right?
Yeah, I'll be disappointed. But honestly, I'm kind of expecting the a la 2016. You start 5-0, you hit the bye, and then you collapse after that.
Right, but that to me says it's changed your expectations because you thought they were good. You didn't going into the year. You wouldn't have been disappointed if they didn't win the division. But now you're going to be disappointed if they don't win the division, right?
I thought early in the year, going into the year, I think on the Over Under podcast, I said that they probably should win the division this year. I thought going in there better than Green Bay, just because of how all the turnover in Green Bay and how that looked in the offseason. I thought Minnesota is returning a lot of guys. They're bringing in a new coach, but that's kind of a new culture, and that feels like what they needed. I thought it was kind of a referendum year on Kirk Cousins, so they have to win the division to get the playoffs if that's going to work out. But I didn't really have any hard expectations. I think that that's still the case for me. I just don't think that I don't think I believe in them enough. But at the same time, they're beating good teams, right? I think Miami's a good team. Obviously, the injuries are there, but that defense is good, right? They've got a lot of weapons. I mean, I think they've got 2 more winnable games before a tough stretch at Buffalo and home against Dallas. But you could reasonably come out of that, 8-2, 7-3, and still be 2 games ahead in the division. So I think my expectation at this point is, you win the division, but that was my expectation at the beginning of the year. It's not been as clean as I'd hoped.
I'm still going to hold out hope for some of these 3-3 teams, and some of these 3-2 teams are interesting. I've got a little hope for Tennessee. I'm going to still think that I'm still going to have some trust in Tennessee to maybe make a run. Super Bowl. I think they could if they catch a hot hand at the right time. Cincinnati, I don't trust. I don't trust the Colts. Although Matty,
you don't think Cincinnati's on an upswing?
I think they're on the upswing, but I still think there's a lot of problems there. I still think there are some. If you're asking me, do I think they can beat Kansas City right now? No. Do you think I can beat Buffalo right now? No, I don't think so. I don't think they can beat Baltimore in a big spot. I'm not sure they can beat Tennessee in a big spot. I just don't know. So I don't know if I trust them. Matty Ice was statistically the best quarterback on the field over the weekend. I still don't trust the Colts, even though they're 3-2-1. No chance do I trust them. So there's not a lot of trust there. Although the 4-2 Jets I don't trust yet. Although I felt like watching the Packers game, Zach. I don't know if you can agree, or watching back the highlights in some of the game. Felt like the Jets had more speed. I felt like they had more guys, more weaponry, like Sauce Gardner and some of those other players seemed to really be a difference for them. And Breece Hall looks like the real McCoy. He looks really, really good.
So I'll be honest, I saw one play of Packers Jets. And that's a product of not having, I don't have an NFL ticket. And we were actually over at the neighbors carving pumpkins, so I only saw.
I got to get you Red Zone. Let me just I got to smuggle you my Red Zone thing so you can watch some Red Zone.
I'll give him a sling login.
I wasn't going to watch it anyway, but
what's that?
We were carving pumpkins.
Oh, carving pumpkins, of course.
But they had the Vikings game on.
That's true. Yeah, that gets you enough. Okay.
Yeah. So we were watching football. We just not the game that I would have picked.
Well, guys, it's time to introduce a new segment here on the podcast, as we've tried to do all pod season long. And so far, thanks for your thoughts, guys. A lot of the responses have been really positive about some of the new segments that we're debuting this year on the pod. Here's another one, Listener Mailbag. We thought we'd dip in and just see what the folks had to say about us. And this is going to be interesting. Ryan, I'll give Zach a second because he jumped out of our shot. There he is. There he's back. He's moving around with us here. It must be time to get chocolate milk. This is what happens when I have Derek Rickert on the pod. Rickert usually runs for some chocolate milk at this time in the pod. So
I have dogs needing to go out and barking.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
I'll be momentarily off the mic, but I can hear you guys.
All right, here we go. Listener mailbag. Number one here. Ryan, let's see what you have to say about this one. Hey, guys, love the show. I'm new to the Boston area, and at first it was great. People were very nice, and there was real optimism around my arrival to the town. Things have changed lately. People seem to be avoiding me, and every time they walk past me, they seem to mutter the name Drew Bledsoe. Two things. Who the hell's Drew Bledsoe, and what does it all mean? Mac J., Foxborough, Massachusetts. Thank you, Mac, for your email. Appreciate that.
Mac's just a young guy. I don't think he knows this yet. But
should we educate on Drew Bledsoe and kind of how this all came about? Because it feels eerily similar to that, doesn't it?
It does feel a little similar. Zappy Mania is kind of sweeping the cradle of the nation over there in Massachusetts. Tim, you're the resident Patriots guy. Do you want to kind of walk through the Drew Bledsoe situation?
Well, there was no secret that Drew Bledsoe was the franchise quarterback in New England. Took him to a Super Bowl. I would argue beloved, right? I think, Zach, you and I grew up watching football at this time. Bledsoe was beloved, right? He was a really talented player, good quarterback. When healthy, really, really good.
I think he had more of a pedigree than Mac Jones has at this point.
Certainly did, right? And he did go to a Super Bowl with New England. They lost to Green Bay, to Favre in that Super Bowl. But he got hurt. And when he got hurt, I don't think there was any thought that Bledsoe wasn't going to come back and be the starter again. But he got hurt, and a unheralded late-round draft pick came in and took over the reins and proceeded to hold the spot for 20-plus years. And that is Tom F. Brady. Now you have this situation where Mac Jones is a pedigree, a quarterback with some pedigree, a first-round pick, a national championship-winning quarterback, and he's walked into a situation where he was beloved quickly and had some early success, but he got hurt. And the guy they're bringing in, it's like they're rallying around him. All of a sudden, they're explosive and dynamic. They're scoring points, and they look like a very different team under Bailey Zappi. So to answer Mac J's email, Drew Bledsoe was a really good quarterback who got replaced by a guy who ended up being maybe the greatest of all time. Not saying we're going to go down that road, but Zapp, at this point, you can't give it back to Mac Jones as long as Bailey Zappi plays well. Can you? Can't do it.
Yes, you can.
You think would you do it though? Let me ask you that, Coach. Would you, if Mac Jones was available to play tomorrow, would you play Mac Jones over Bailey Zappi?
I don't know that Bailey Zappi's done enough to show that. I mean, I don't think he's the reason why they're winning.
He threw over 300 yards over the weekend, though. I mean, he played really well.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I think I would stick with where I was at. And let's be honest here. We don't know when we're going to see Mac Jones.
That's true. High ankle sprains are weird. We don't
know.
So
if we get 5 more weeks of Bailey Zappi and he continues to rip it all around the yard, then that would be an interesting offseason decision.
I get that you and I come from this weird camp. I mean, and I don't like to give up jobs to guys who I don't like to have guys lose their job based on injury. But it does feel like something you have to think about when you don't have a lot of juice on offense like the Patriots did before Bailey Zappi came in. They just look like a different team right now. They just do.
Yeah, they sure do. I to be honest, I think that between them and I mean, there's a number of teams now that feel like they've got some backup quarterbacks in there. I mean, obviously we've talked about the Dolphins. But, I mean, the Saints look better with Andy Dalton than they do with Jameis Winston. And maybe it's time to have that conversation, too.
But I mean, I don't know. I guess there's a few people who still like Jameis, but I think a lot of people thought he was bad for a while.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think he would be out as quarterback if he had stayed healthy the last couple of years and actually played a full season and, But he'd have those moments, right? Like, oh, he looked really good the first 3 weeks, and then he was out for the rest of the year. Well, I don't know.
All right, next email. I'll leave this for you first, Zach. Here we go. Hey, fellas, big fan, long-time listener. I've heard a lot of rumors that Daniel Snyder claims he has dirt on the other owners and has threatened to bring down the league if pushed too far. Is this just the ramblings of a really bad guy, or do I need to believe that the league is full of bad guys? I'm asking for 31 concerned friends of mine. Let me know what your wisdom is. Roger G., New York City. Thank you, Roger, for the email. Zach, your thoughts on the Daniel Snyder stuff this week?
Well, as a NFL owner, I'm hoping he doesn't have dirt on all of us.
There's some high bills you've ran up in Las Vegas casinos that you're not necessarily ready to talk about, I'm assuming, right?
This whole thing just feels like a mess. And, I mean, it seems like it's coming to a head, right? Because on national TV Thursday night, you had Al Michaels announce to the world, well, we're pretty sure that the NFL would just love it if you would just sell and get out of the way. And I was like, ooh, that was pretty straightforward.
Well, I'm wondering if Al's drinking during these Thursday night games. He hasn't had a lot of good ones to watch so far. I just wonder if he's starting to pour the strong stuff in the second half of these games.
Well, I know that was the only way I was able to make it through Commanders Bears.
Yeah, I was going to say he's got to be drinking at some point, but are we sure that he didn't make that comment with Roger Goodell standing in the booth with a gun in his back? Just say the words, Al. Just say the words.
Here's the script, Al. Just read that.
Here's the deal. The workplace atmosphere stuff aside, the issue is going to be, right, he was withholding money from road teams on, how their revenue split goes. That's going to be the one that pisses people off, right? That's the one that's got the other owners upset.
Right.
It's not the, I don't even know what you want to call it. Their workplace atmosphere, they're harassing women, right? I mean, there's a whole ball of stuff there.
They're the Washington HR violations at this point.
Maybe that's what they could change their name to.
But that's what I think, like, if it was just that, they could do a mea culpa and they'd probably still be fine. But when you start messing with other money that's supposed to be going to other owners.
Yeah.
Right.
And
now,
I think we mentioned that last year when that news broke, that we said that, it wasn't going to be the misconduct stuff that did him in, just because we knew that was happening all over the league, especially like it was happening in Dallas too. It was as soon as you start toying with other people's money, other millionaires and billionaires' money, it's over for you.
Yeah, I think there was some comments too about Jerry this week as well. There's more stuff about him too.
He'll never sell though.
But do you buy the dirt? Do you think Snyder has dirt, and do you think it's bad enough where the league owners will be like, all right, we'll put up with this, but give us our money?
He will be. I hate to just put this out there, but he'll be dead in the ground before we hear any of that stuff. He will mysteriously come down with something. He'll have a heart attack. These people are well connected, man. They don't want their secrets getting out.
Good point. That's fair. Stay tuned on that one. And thanks, Roger G., for the email. Really appreciate the listenership out in New York. I didn't know we had a lot of listeners in New York, but it's cool that we got some. It's cool. Ryan, this one's specifically for you in listener mailbag.
Oh.
Yeah, so I hope you'll enjoy this. I want to thank Ryan for believing in the Ohio State University, even though he has never been to Ohio. I appreciate the fact that he sticks up for Ohio State QBs going all the way back to Joe Germain and Troy Smith. I'm worried, though, that maybe no OSU QB will succeed at the next level. Justin Fields looked like a sure thing, and now he looks like Spurgeon Wynn. I had to Google that. I didn't know who he was. I'm worried that no OSU QB can succeed at the next level. Talk me down. Thanks, and go Bucks. Ryan Days of God. CJS, Columbus, Ohio.
Well, CJ, it's good to hear from you. And first of all, I just want to set the record straight that I support Ohio State quarterbacks going all the way back to Craig Krenzel. So there's a long line there.
Back to Rich Schleister and Kirk Herbstreit. Are you there too? Are you all? Not
I'm not as big on Herbstreit. I didn't think he did quite as much, but I will own Craig Krenzel because he brought them a national title.
There you go.
So here's the thing. Ohio State runs a very specific system, and I think that a lot of the guys that have come through have fit that system, and they have not done well at the pro level. I think that for the first time, the last couple of guys, Haskins, Fields, and now Stroud, are the kinds of guys who should do well in the NFL. But we know that it's a crapshoot, right? It depends on the situation you're in. It depends on the receivers that are there. It depends on what the coaching staff that you end up with does. And I've been adamant where I've said that I don't think Justin Fields is as bad as he's looked on the field.
You have been a staunch defender of Fields, despite the evidence to the contrary.
I think that he is in a very bad situation that has not helped him very much. He has next to no weapons around him. His offensive line has been terrible. He's under pressure constantly. He's in a totally new regime, which is a defensive focused, outfit. I think that he needs some consistency and he needs to get out of Chicago. Stroud, I think, is the best of the bunch, right? I thought Haskins had some character concerns coming out. I like his game. But I mean, we knew that his dad was an issue. We knew that he had some attitude concerns even going into and then being at Ohio State. But he was so talented at the collegiate level that he just kind of dealt with it. Fields didn't have those issues. He was more of a mobile guy, and he looked like a really good prospect coming out. But Stroud seems like a really prototypical quarterback who I think could step in and be really good in the pros. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on the situation, and no high-level draft pick is getting put into a good situation, right? It is very rare that you have a team that is ready for a quarterback to step in and be great that drafts a quarterback high in the first round. I think we could look at Trevor Lawrence, who a lot of people, including myself, thought was going to be one of the best prospects to come out of college in a long time. He's struggling in Jacksonville because we're going to kind of call this rookie year part 2 for him because now he has an actual coach, right? And there's going to be some growing pains that happen there. And we're starting to see some of those flashes from him like we saw in college. He's growing into that. But I think that that's the same thing that Justin Fields needs. It's going to be the same thing that CJ Stroud needs. It would have been the same thing, honestly, that I thought Dwayne Haskins needed earlier in his career, God rest his soul, right? Like there are things that happen in a quarterback's development that if they don't happen early enough, you're too far behind the 8 ball to get back in front.
Zach, your thoughts on the CJS email on OSU QB's Justin Fields? What you saw last Thursday couldn't have given you a lot of hope. Even though Richard Sherman did seem to support Ryan's theory that Luke Getzey maybe wasn't helping Fields much.
That was a really long way to say OSU quarterbacks stink.
Come on.
I guess here's my takeaway from your comments, Ryan. He needs to get out of there and get in a better situation. How many quarterbacks have been bad and then gone somewhere else and then become good?
I would argue that it's rare, but it's the best chance he has. But again, this goes back to my comment that if you don't follow the natural path of development, right, you are so far behind the 8 ball you can't come back because the league is not looking to develop talent. Right?
What is the natural talent? What is the natural path though? Because some guys start right away, throw a bunch of picks and screw up. Some guys sit for a year. What is the natural path?
You have to show flashes, right? You have to show development. You have to demonstrate the ability to do that. But that comes from being in a decent situation, right? I mean, that I would argue that if you look at some of the really great quarterbacks, like Peyton Manning didn't look good his first 2 years, and I think we'd agree that he's a top 10 quarterback of all time. Yep. I mean, we could look at Brett Favre's career and see that he was a very good quarterback, but he threw a lot of picks, and that certainly wasn't better early.
He would be your one example, Zach. He'd probably be your best example of a guy who got better moving locations. Like he'd probably be your best.
Well, and he ended up on a coaching staff that was full of elite talent, right? That coaching staff was the reason that Brett Favre succeeded.
Let's not get too carried away there. He was pretty good too. I mean, he's not good at paying taxes and stuff, and he's good at.
He had elite talent. He had elite level talent, but it wasn't getting brought out in high school or college. He was
goddamn Glanville was the coach in Atlanta.
Yeah, but hold on. You guys are acting like he was terrible in Atlanta. He threw 4 passes in Atlanta.
That's fair. Okay.
But he wasn't Brett Favre, right? The way that we know him. He became that because of the coaching he got in Green Bay.
I mean, in fairness, he was 0 for 4 with 2 picks, but right. I mean, you know what I'm saying, though? He was the third quarterback on the roster. It's not like he was.
Or like, I'm trying to think of a better example. Maybe be like and it's on a smaller scale, but like Ryan Tannehill is better on stop 2 than he was on stop 1. You know, we could argue.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to compare Justin Fields to Brett Favre. I'm just saying that I think that if you put him in a different situation, if you were to switch his places, I think with Jalen Hurts, right? I think that Hurts would look worse in Chicago, and Fields would have been better in Philadelphia if you would have switched their situations from jump. I think.
Would you think Philly'd be 5-0 right now or 6-0?
I do. I think he's a more talented quarterback than Jalen Hurts was. I think that the development has hurt him.
You've given Zach a headache. We have to close listener mailbag on that note. That was really good. Hey, thanks for the emails, everybody. Keep them coming. You can always send them to timpodcast1@yahoo.com. And you can also drop it in our messages at Tim Anderson Pod on Twitter and also on Instagram at Mr. Tim Anderson.
Just don't ask Zach and I to talk about Ohio State football. He's going to have an aneurysm.
I can't wait for the all-SEC playoff.
Oh, stop it.
It is possible. Probably not probable, but it is possible.
You're going to have an undefeated Big Ten champion, whoever it is.
Michigan.
You're not going to be able to leave
You ready to
them
give
out.
Michigan credit? You ready to do that yet, Ryan?
Michigan looks good. They're not going to beat Ohio State, but they look good.
We may have to go sit somewhere and watch that game together. Zach and I want to live the experience of watching an OSU game with Ryan. Just live it in a game where he's sweating and flop sweat and.
Is that game at OSU this year?
Yeah, it's at the Shoe.
Oh, the Shoe.
The Shoe. It's at the Shoe. All right, let's get to the prediction segment this week, guys. Hey, last week, since we all picked kind of the same teams, it was a good thing we picked on the spread because I think it helped us on a few of these games. Zach ended up going 4-1, and he is now up to 17-8 on the season. You should be betting, Zach. You are. We need to get some gambling in this damn state. Zach could be up right now. I'm at 16-9. Doing okay for myself. I went with the Dallas pick. That's what killed me. Otherwise, Zach and I'd be tied right now. Ryan had a nice little surge again last week. He's above 500. He is 13-12. So not too bad, Rhino. You're back on track.
Started rough, but we're scratching back here, Tim.
You are scratching back. This week, though, is just an absolute. On paper, at least, it looks like a crap sandwich of games. Not a lot of really interesting matchups, but we did find 5. To make predictions for this week, and we'll see where you're at. We'll start with pick number 1. Ryan, you're trailing, so we're going to let you go first. The Atlanta Falcons, who are 3-3 with Marcus Mariota. What the hell is going on here? They beat Ryan's stud team, the San Francisco 49ers, last week, and they killed them. Just buried the Niners last week. They're playing at the Cincinnati Bengals this week. The Bengals are 6-point favorites. Ryan, where are you going?
I'm going to take the Bengals and the points here. I think that they are starting to find that explosiveness that they had last season. They showed that against what I think is a fairly decent New Orleans defense. That they had a couple of big plays, which was kind of their lifeblood last year. I think that they're protecting Burrow just a little bit better. They don't have to protect him that much better. Just don't let him get hit every play, and he'll make some plays for you. I think that this is kind of a tough game for Atlanta. I think matchup wise, I'm going to take the Bengals and the points.
Sorry for the cough there. That's bad radio. Zach, where are we going?
I will also take the Bengals. We talked about trust earlier in the show, and the Falcons are one team I do not trust.
Yeah, I don't trust the Falcons to win, but they're surprising the hell out of me. They're far more plucky and in a lot more games than I thought, so I'm going to take the Falcons to cover. I think the Bengals will win this game, and they probably should. They're at home. I think they need to take care of business, but I feel like this is like a 3-point game. I think the Falcons are going to be in here till the end, and maybe a 27-24 kind of game. I think they cover the 6 points, so I'll take Atlanta. Next one, Rhino. Colts at the Titans. All of a sudden, a game that has meaning. After these two teams got off to some weird starts, they're both now with winning records. Where are we going? 2.5-point favorites for the Titans.
Yeah, Titans coming off a bye at home. It kind of felt like they were starting to find their running game a little bit before the bye. So I'm going to take the Titans here to win the game. I'll take them to cover too. You said it was a 3-point game?
2.5
spread?
2.5.
2.5 point. I'll take them to cover that. I think that Indianapolis feels like a team that's up and down, and they were up last week, and they're kind of up against it this week. So I'm going to take Tennessee in the points.
Zach.
So everything about this game, to me, says take Tennessee. Off the bye, it seems like they're at home, right? It's a low points number. And so for that reason, I will take the opposite side. I'm going to go with the Colts because Vegas always knows.
Maybe it's the whole talk of a domed stadium in Nashville and conversion to pansy-ass football. Although, we've been playing in domes here forever, but maybe that's why we stink. I don't know. But I'm going to take Tennessee to win as well. Win and cover. I'm with you, Ryan. I think the Titans are much better. Give me teams that know how to run the ball. I think Vrabel's a good coach. Give me that. Give me that all day. I think Tennessee wins that game and covers. Kansas City, coming off of a loss, goes to travel on the road. 3-point favorites on the road at the 49ers.
Yeah, this is another one that feels like a more interesting game on paper. Is there any chance that Nick Bosa's playing this game? I know he was out last week.
Yeah, who could say?
If they can't get pressure on the quarterback, I think this is going to be a blowout Kansas City win. If that defense is playing up to par, I think it'll be a little bit closer, but Kansas City still wins. So I'm going to take Kansas City. Also, Andy Reid teams don't lose 2 in a row.
That's fair. That's very fair. All right. Zach.
I'll take the Chiefs as well. I like Jimmy G, but I don't like him in this situation. We've talked about it before. I think the Chiefs have the better quarterback. They've got the better coach. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Going with the Chiefs. I will take the Chiefs to rebound as well. But it's and 3 points. I think they'll cover 3 points. I think they're going to win by more than 3 if they play. But the Niners are desperate. It feels like a weird game. You feel like the Niners will probably find a way to win that because they've been playing weird games all season long. But I don't know. I just keep waiting for the Niners to be really impressive, and I haven't seen that yet. So I guess give me the Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs till further notice. I think they cover as well. Zach, I'll give you this one first. The Giants are 5-1, who we all three agree that we kind of don't trust them. But there they are on the road at Jacksonville, and can you believe it? They're road dogs. The Jags are 3-point favorites at 2-4 over a 5-1 Giants team. Where are you going?
On this one, I am going to go with the Giants. I thought about this one being another one of those Vegas knows better. But I just can't trust Trevor Lawrence yet. As much as I want to, as much as I like him, and I want him to be good, like it just feels like there's still something missing there in Jacksonville. They're still another year away. They're going to win a couple games this year, but or a couple more than last year at least. But they're not going to win this week, so I'll take the Giants. And
to get to 6-1, playing on the road to get to 6-1. Ryan.
What was the spread on this game?
Spread is Jags by 3.
All right. I mean, the home team gets 3 points, right? That's kind of the rule of thumb.
That's kind of the rule of thumb.
I guess kind of thinking this is a coin flip game a little bit.
Again,
I'm going to take the Giants on this one, just because I think that their defense is super aggressive, and I think that makes Trevor Lawrence uncomfortable. Kayvon Thibodeau is starting to come on a little bit. He's kind of showing why he was such a high draft pick. Just playing really athletically, playing really aggressively. And I think that Jaguars defense has some trouble stopping the run. And the Giants just know how to use Saquon Barkley. They just get him the ball and he makes plays. And when he doesn't, Danny Dimes pulls it down and he runs it. So it's so hard to stop that, and the Jaguars just aren't a disciplined football team yet, so I'm going to take the Giants.
I'm with you on all of this. All signs point to the Giants maybe covering this 3 points. The Jags don't think but I'm going to take the Jags to win this game. I think the home thing is, I still think the Giants even though the Jags I don't think are good, I think Doug Peterson's a good enough coach that he'll scheme something up. And the Giants have to they got to prove to me again that they can go on the road against a team that they're supposed to beat, even though they're not favored to win. Record-wise, they should beat this team. You got to go on the road and prove that to me. Still, one more time. And I'm not ready to go there yet. You beat Green Bay in London, kind of a weird game. I don't know if I can count that as a road win, although it really is. But, I mean, it just, it's a kind of a neutral, weird game. You did beat Tennessee on the road to start the season. Totally get that. Great job. You had all the time in the world to prepare for that. I guess I want to see that here. I need to see you go on the road and beat a bad Jacksonville team. I'm not sure that they will. I give you Jacksonville to win that game. All right. Last one. The surprising Seahawks, which, by the way, Geno Smith's starting to get a little chesty. Starting to get a little bit chesty. I saw him with the media this week. He's like, hey, do you think that anybody was surprised? Well, who's surprised by me playing this way? Who's surprised? Well, it's like, well, you've been backing up for a decade. So, it kind of leads us to think that maybe you were surprised by this, or we're surprised. Like, well, you guys obviously haven't seen me throw then. Well, actually, no, we have seen you throw. We have seen you throw for a decade. When you come into games, you're not that good. This year, you're having a good year, though. Can't take anything away from him. But he's getting a little haughty for me, and I don't know if I like it. Seahawks are at the Chargers. Chargers are 7-point favorites. Zach, why don't you go first?
This is a tough one for me. This is probably the toughest one I had to decide on. I think that the Chargers are a better team. But the short week for them, and at least they're at home. And I think that was what did it for me. So I am going to take the Chargers to win and to cover. I think in general, yes, Geno Smith has done some good things, but the teams they've beaten, the Broncos, the Lions, the Cardinals, not all that impressive, and their losses are to bad teams too. The Saints, the Falcons, the 49ers, those teams aren't blowing doors off either. So that's why I'm with the Chargers on this one.
7-point favorites for the Chargers, Ryan.
I'm going to take the Chargers to win, but the Hawks to cover.
Ooh, Seahawks to cover. Okay.
I think that this one's going to be a little bit tighter. I think that LA has a tendency to play down to their opponents. And I think that the resurgence of a running game in Seattle allows them to control the ball a little bit better than we might have seen earlier in the year. Kenneth Walker is actually a really good player. And I think the addition of a really good defensive back in Tariq Woolen has shown that he's starting to come into his own on the outside there. And that's going to create some problems for that LA offense, I think. And I don't think it's enough quite to beat LA, but I think it's enough to make it an interesting game. So I'm going to take that result.
I will take the Chargers to win and cover. I don't love Coach Staley. I think he's just recklessly aggressive as a coach, and it's going to get his team beat in a lot of games, but I don't think the Seahawks are good. I'm not ready to buy into Geno Smith yet. I think somebody's got to pop a little hole in that balloon and just bring him down here for just a little while. It's a little too much for me, a little too haughty on the Geno Smith stuff right now.
Can you blame him, though?
No, I can't blame him, but it's a lot for me. It's just a lot. I just don't think, take it. Let's stop with. If the chip on the shoulder thing helps you play better football, then great. I guess go with it, but don't act like we don't have a reason to think you're not good. We watched you play in New York. We watched you play as a backup for years. Come on now. Stop this. Stop this. It's not like we're looking at. You're not Earl Morrall. You're not the greatest backup in the history of football. You're not Steve Young on the bench to Joe Montana just waiting for a chance. Let's stop all that. By the way, Steve Young, another guy who might have got better leaving one place to another, as another example of that. Possible. It's an interesting conversation, actually. It makes me want to do a deep dive. Ryan.
But he didn't. I
got time.
We're getting off course, but He didn't go to San Francisco and start right away either.
No, that's true. He did sit.
It did take him some time. Not that was necessarily a requirement, but anyway.
And that may be the path for someone like Justin.
Maybe we need a deep dive. We'll deep dive. Maybe that's Geno Smith's path. Who knows? All right, that's the prediction segment for this week. We'll keep an eye on it. Let's go to the eliminator. This one's interesting. We did eliminate the Steelers. We've eliminated the Houston Texans, the Atlanta Falcons, who are 3-3, which we might regret. The Seahawks, who are 3-3. We have taken out the Pittsburgh Steelers last week and the Washington Cobra Commanders. Who is up on the chopping block this week, Rhino?
Have we eliminated the Carolina Panthers?
We
officially?
have not. We talked about them. We gave them
I
a
think
stay
we
of
got to put them
execution.
on the list. We got to put them on the list, I think. But I think that the other team we've got to at least bring up as the division has gotten further and further away from them. I think the Detroit Lions have to be on the conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the Lions and the Raiders are two other teams we can talk about, and neither of them played this week.
Yeah.
Carolina's definitely up there. You know, the other one I think we got to mention here is that the Jets have not lost since Tim nominated them 3 weeks ago.
I made a public apology to Robert Saleh on this podcast last week. He could. I hope he rips up that receipt.
It's interesting to see how some of these have gone. You know, I'm also, teams that I think are approaching there, right? We just talked about Jacksonville struggling, and I don't think that we're ready to eliminate them yet just because their division's not great either. The Bears need to be in the conversation at some point too. But I'm definitely comfortable that, the Saints, again, though, only a game out in a not great division. But yes, I think we need to do the Panthers this week.
Yeah, I think so too.
That feels like the choice.
Yeah, we were thinking maybe the Bud Kilmer theory could come back for Carolina. They get rid of the old coach and they rally around each other. You thought maybe there would be some of that pit boss Rich thing, but it's not there. There's no Bud Kilmer theory to go into here. I think Steve Wilkes is just keeping the seat warm for somebody.
Meyer?
Maybe.
Jesus.
I stand by my comment. No one overreacts to a half of football quite like you two guys.
Oh, stop that. Oh, come on. You are just as bad as everybody else. Are you kidding me?
We were well into the third quarter when I sent that text.
He was 2 drives into the game. We get a text from Zach. Kenny Pickett stinks. He's literally.
He was terrible in that game.
He threw a touchdown and they won. They won big before he got hurt.
Whoa. Who threw the winning touchdown?
Well, Trubisky, who you also said stinks on this podcast.
Trubisky came in and threw the touchdown. Kenny Pickett is not.
Can we settle one thing here? We are doing a podcast. It is our job to overreact.
No, we're not overreacting, though.
This is what we do. We are supposed to react and overreact. We're supposed to have hot takes. This is what we do. This is the job.
Yeah, but that wasn't even, on the radio. We weren't even on. We weren't even podcasting.
I was playing golf. I was getting updates on the fly, watching as I was playing. Don't say I was overreacting. I was just
Tim's
looking at
10 minutes behind on
the
the Sirius XM Sunday Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that, too. Anytime we talk about stuff, he's always a little bit behind.
I am.
I'm trying to go back here and find Ryan's message.
Okay, now we're going to dig up the receipts in the group chat now, too. This is great.
I don't know. I can't find it.
Well, here's his line about. So this is what must have done this. Oh yeah, wheels are coming off in Arizona. Zach's immediate response: "You guys are so reactionary after one half of football. The wheels are off in Arizona."
No, it wasn't to that. See,
it was the Rams might be bad.
Oh, Rams might be bad. The Butker.
No,
yeah.
It was this one: Rams down to ratty Panthers in second half. What is that theory Tim keeps talking about? After bad coach gets fired.
Yeah, that's the Bud Kilmer theory.
Yeah. Oh, wow. They had a 3-point lead on the Rams at halftime, and we're all, woo, Steve Wilkes.
And all I said was, are you talking about the Bud Kilmer theory? I don't want you lumping me into Ryan, assuming that I was just nominating all these teams.
I didn't remember the name of the theory. I didn't remember the name of the theory.
Yeah,
He's got 100 theories over there, and I can't remember half of them.
And no, Tim, you weren't on that one, but you're just as bad sometimes.
Oh, are you serious? No. Here's all I said. I said was Stefanski might be a bad coach. I said might. I didn't say he is, and that's not one half of football. We're talking about he's year 3. He's year 3 in the job. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, are we going to talk about eliminating the Browns at some point here soon?
Jesus Christ.
No, they're a game out of first with their backup quarterback.
That's true.
Calm down.
I think Watson is actually able to practice right now. Like, I think he only had, he was 6 weeks he had to be away from the building. I think he's, eligible to go in the building now.
Yes, he is able to be back there in practice. Now, their schedule gets really tough.
That's true.
Right? Their next games are Ravens, Bengals, Dolphins, Bills.
Ooh. So 4, I think.
Well, if they are 0 for 4, then we'll probably be eliminating them.
Yeah, I would say so.
But I think there's other teams that are ahead of them in line right now.
That got explosive there on the eliminator. Carolina, you're out. Tribe has spoken. Time for you to go. As the Panthers have joined the ranks of the eliminated. Time for the power rankings. This is where we just rank the top 5 teams in the league every week, see where we're at. And these things are subject to change, and in no way are we saying but that these are all going to win the Super Bowl or anything. These are just our 5 best teams we think in the league as of right now. Number 5, Zach.
I have the New York Football Giants.
New York Football Giants.
5-1. They've beat enough good teams for me to believe it. I know you said you need them to win this week in Jacksonville, but I'm converted. They're on my list.
Ryan.
My number 5 team is the Minnesota Vikings.
The Minnesota Vikings are number 5. Okay.
Wow.
Huge. Just huge. I also have the New York Giants here at number 5. I do. Now, 5-1 is 5-1. I mean, and there just aren't that many teams with records like that, so you got to give them a little credit. The Ravens could still be here, but just too many close losses. I still believe the Ravens are good, and I trust them, but 3 giving up leads late in the fourth quarter on 3 teams, it's a conversation. You got to sit out a week. Let's see if they can recover. I still think both teams could go.
I think they're going to be out for more than a week, to be honest, in my rankings.
Yeah. You might be right. They got to.
We'll talk about them again when they get to 6-3 or what.
Yeah, I think a run is in there. I think they're going to make a move here at some point and get going because I think they're just too good to not. But yeah, it hasn't been great so far to give up those leads. They really should be 5-1, 6-0. It's ridiculous that they're not. All right, number 4, Zach.
My 4th team is the Vikings. Like you said, 5-1 is 5-1. I think we're at the point of the season where, wins are starting to matter more than just the eyeball test too, right? Because that's what we keep track of, right? We keep track of wins in this league.
Yes.
Ryan always says, what is it? How
many?
Not how, or whatever.
Tell me how many.
Yeah. And so they've won some games, not in the prettiest ways, but they're winning games. They're winning games in the division, which is important, right? If you want to be a playoff team and a high seed, they're the 4th best team for me right now.
Ryan.
My number 4 team is the New York Giants. This is for the same kind of reason, right? They're 5-1. I feel like that we've gotten to a point where that kind of glut that we had in that 5 spot of teams that I thought could have been slotted in there, we're kind of starting to sort that out a little bit. And these are the 2 that kind of came out for me, are the Giants and the Vikes. And I'm going to just kind of keep this order for now. I like them a lot.
I think Kansas City's really good, but I have them at number 4 here after that loss. I still believe in them, but I do have some concerns about a couple of things. I think they're starting to miss Tyreek Hill just a little bit, having that speed guy, that guy they can go to. I feel like they're leaning on Travis Kelce a lot to make every big catch that's needed to be made. And Mahomes made a couple of throws that were just okay, you are just gunslinging. And that pick at the end of the game, that sealed it. He made a couple of bad throws during the game. I'm not saying I don't believe in Mahomes and he can't turn it around, but those are some disturbing trends that I'm a little concerned about at this moment. That's all.
Well, I've been saying that for years. He puts the ball up in bad spots, and he gets away with it, and people laud him for it, you know. But that last interception he threw was a great scheme. They played cover 2 on the front side, and they played man on the back side. So he read man and had the guy dragging, and he threw it right into the teeth of the cover 2.
It was a great play by Buffalo, and it sealed the win. And I thought they left too much time. I was actually concerned there for a minute because Mahomes does have this magical ability to get down the field in 10 seconds, like no quarterback I've ever seen, which is why you can't ever count them out. They're never out of a game. But, just some little things that I just wonder if they're one weapon short on offense right now that makes me worry about them long term. I still think they're really good. They're a top 5 team. I just got them at 4 this week. Number 3.
I have them at 3, so they're my next team. Yeah.
3. Ryan, are they still 3 for you?
They were not on my list.
5. They haven't even been in your 5 for 3 weeks, which is an absolute embarrassment. Who's number 3?
My number 3 team is the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just kidding. It's the Kansas City Chiefs.
I was gonna throw something at you. Jesus Christ.
They played that game really tight against who I think is the best team in the NFL. Spoiler alert. I think that they are a good team. I needed to see it against a good team. Obviously, there's some inconsistencies there, but I'll give it to them. They're my number 3 team this week.
I have the Vikings number 3, and it's only because I look at their schedule and I'm projecting that they're going to have some gift wins here in the next few weeks. I'm also looking at the fact that they've got a 2-game lead right now, which is kind of like a 3-game lead over second-place Green Bay because they've got the win, so they hold that tiebreaker. That's a nice cushion to have at this stage of the season. You host Arizona next week, or in 2 weeks after the bye. You have the Washington Cobra Commanders, granted at the worst field in professional football, FedEx Field, but you're going to probably be playing Taylor Heineke, not playing Carson Wentz. So that's a very
former
winnable
Minnesota
game.
Viking great, Taylor Heineke.
Yep, you could be 7-1. 7-1, 7-1. Then you got to obviously play Buffalo and Dallas and New England. Those 3 are going to be meat grinders. They're going to be really tough. But if you do
get Dallas and New England at home.
Yeah. So if you're going to be 7-1 heading into that stretch, I like your chances. I really do. So I'm not sold. I don't believe in them yet. But record is the record. I'm projecting this team could have 7 wins, which could put them 4 clear in the division within the next 2 weeks, potentially.
I worry about the early bye week.
Yep.
And how that pans out for them. But, we can touch on that more in a couple weeks here.
And I do think there is a point of no return. Like, if they get 4 games up in the division, barring just a collapse, right, that division's going to be theirs, and they're definitely going to host a playoff game. And then all bets are off at that point. Number 2.
I've got the Bills at 5-1, and I know we disagreed on this last week.
Yep.
And they did play a good game this week, right? They beat the Chiefs, who are still high in our rankings. But I do think we saw how defenses have caught up to offenses a little bit, and I think that is the case when you talk about the Bills too, right? They're just not quite as explosive, right? I mean, they had the huge scoring, right, 2 weeks ago, but there's just something not quite the Eagles, and the Eagles haven't lost, so that's why I'm going with the Eagles. I know you guys will disagree with me here, but
go ahead, Ryan.
I'm going to go with the Eagles at 2.
Me too.
Again, because I kind of listed this on Twitter a little bit, so you'll have to bear with me for my explanation. I'm getting concerned with the lack of depth in Philadelphia. I think that they're starting to get bit by that injury bug. You're starting to see some guys go down with injuries. And the one that I'm going to point out the most is Lane Johnson goes out at right tackle and Micah Parsons starts destroying their backup. It was not close. It was not a competition. Lane Johnson equalized it, and Micah Parsons became a problem when he left the game in the second half, and that's when the Cowboys closed the gap. So with a backup quarterback nearly coming back to win that game, or at least close the gap in that game with a backup quarterback and the defense starts to step up, I start to get concerned with the depth in Philadelphia. I think the cornerbacks are a concern with depth. C.J. Gardner-Johnson went down, and they had some major issues on the back end of that defense while he was out for the couple of series. That leads me to believe that if they start to fall apart a little bit, if they start to get some injury concerns, they're not going to be nearly as good as they are right now, but they are really good, so I have to give them credit.
Yeah, I got Philly at 2 as well. I think Hurts is good, but if you're just asking me in a big game, who do I want right now? I still want Josh Allen over Jalen Hurts. That's just where I'm at. I still want Diggs over A.J. Brown, and I still want the defense of Buffalo over the defense of Philadelphia.
Remember last year when Ryan said, "What if this is as good as Josh Allen ever is?"
He did the old Jack Nicholson.
All of a sudden, you guys think he's great?
Hang on a minute now. I didn't say he wasn't great last year. I was on the record saying he was great last year.
I was too.
Here's the beauty of this. I've got the archive. I can look this up anytime.
I said, what if he is...
We're like 3 weeks into the season last year, and you said something to the effect of like, "Oh, what if last year was as good as it ever got?" I still don't trust him, right?
It's a question. You're going to bring up last year? What is this?
I am totally digging into the archive tonight after this podcast goes up. I want to confirm that was said as we were regaling the Panthers being 3-0 at that time as well. So, I mean, in fairness, we were praising Matt Rule and a 3-0 Panthers team at that moment, too. So we're subject to change on this pod. And then, of course, go ahead.
The Bills have some impressive wins, no doubt, right? They've beaten the Chiefs. And then... we think the Ravens are good, but they lost to the Dolphins.
Yep.
I'm not impressed that they beat the Steelers. And the Rams and the Titans are okay. And don't get me wrong, it's not that the Eagles' schedule isn't world beaters either. But the Eagles have beaten a 5-1 Vikings team. They've beaten a 4-2 Cowboys team.
Mm-hmm.
Both pretty convincingly, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Well, which was it? Was it convincingly, or did Dallas close the gap, Ryan?
Dallas did close the gap, and it does raise concerns down the line, but it was convincing at the end. They did win the game.
And they led the whole way. I mean, they were up 20-0. They led the whole way.
It's possible to raise red flags and still win a game convincingly.
You two need a breather from each other. I tell you what, that might be good.
This is why I drink.
This is why I coach debate.
So in the end, Zach does have Philly at number 1, and we have the Bills at number 1. So that's
right.
Concludes that. But we're still in the same ballpark. A lot of the same teams, right?
Well, we're not. This is the first time we've been unanimous with our 5.
Yes. In some different spots, but yes, the same 5 teams.
Yeah, so we all picked the same 5. So we have Bills, Eagles, Chiefs, Vikings, Giants, if we collaborate.
But fascinating enough, based on our earlier conversation, we don't trust half of these teams. Over half of these teams we do not trust in a big spot. So there you go. Keep an ear out for that. I want to thank you guys again for listening to the pod this week. Once again, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We can also you can find us Tim Podcast. Tim Podcast at podbean.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Tim Podcast. The links are everywhere you get your podcast. Please share out. Please comment. Please rate us 5 stars. All of that good stuff. I would appreciate it if you did that. More stuff coming up in the next few weeks. Again, we're praying we can get Lauren back on the pod here to answer for her Tom Brady slander, but also to get the movie pod back up and running as we get into the winter months. The kid looks cute in the Halloween outfit we bought him. Thank you for that, Rhino. We appreciate you showing that. That was lovely. And that'll be that. So thank you for listening once again. Continue to keep those comments coming in. So until next time, for Zach, for Ryan, this is Tim saying keep your head up, and we'll see you.